You're welcome to Positive Impact. My name is Joy Elenwo, and I'm your host for today. Positive Impact is a program that talks about social issues that affect the family and the society generally. Because ultimately, you are your own competition. Because until you arise, every other thing is slipping. What is depression to start with? It's a state whereby you are not interested in activities, you have mood swings, you don't feel like you're worth anything. And so, of course, in marriages, we have situations that can lead to depression. Hello viewers, you're welcome to another edition of Positive Impact. This is a program where we talk about social issues that affect the family and the society generally. Today we have a very interesting topic with a very special guest. His name is Dr. John Ida Michaels. He is a medical doctor, and we're going to talk on COVID-19 and the vaccines. You're welcome, doctor.
Thank you very much.
Please, can you introduce yourself properly and tell us?
My name is Dr. John Ida Michaels. I work as an infectious disease specialist. I currently work at Institute of Human Virology of Nigeria at University of Port Harcourt Teaching Hospital. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay. What are the current statistics regarding the new cases of COVID-19?
Well, as of 29th of October 2021, and CDC has released values, and the current total number of people who have been infected on record is about 295,000 people.
295,000.
Yeah,
okay.
about that number in Nigeria, and a little bit about just about 3,000 deaths. 2,985,000 people have died from COVID-19, while more than 99% of people have recovered so far in Nigeria. So basically that is the statistics. However, we know that these numbers are, there's a lot of cases that go unreported. So we know that these are just the published figures. We know that the number escalates way beyond these figures. Okay.
So how has the introduction of the vaccines helped reduce the number of cases?
I think that if you look globally, that answers the question, because the cases have dropped, even though it's not a huge scale as it once was, so people don't quite report it as much. But the case finding in different countries have dropped, especially in Nigeria, even though there's a recent strain that is now causing new infections. Yesterday it was about 110 new infections in Nigeria, but considerably it has dropped from the huge numbers we used to have, over 2,000, over 1,000 daily. The introduction of the vaccine has brought that. And I think that we've achieved a little bit of what they call herd immunity, H-E-R-D, herd immunity. And herd immunity is essentially what similar to what the vaccine does. When a substantial amount of people get infected, it breaks the chain of transmission. Okay. So that, so in answering that question, yes, the vaccine has done some work in reducing the number of cases, so to speak.
So a lot of people are wondering why we have multiple vaccines.
We do not have multiple vaccines. We have different companies making vaccines. Let me use an everyday thing, for example. Many companies make baby food, right? So you have maybe Nestle making baby food, you have Johnson's making baby food. The same thing with, for example, paracetamol. We have Emzor making paracetamol. We have various companies, GlaxoSmithKline making paracetamol. So essentially the aim is to make a viable product that can serve the purpose of bringing down these infections. So we have Pfizer, which is one of the most popular companies making the vaccines. We have Johnson & Johnson's, we have, AstraZeneca, and there's a number of other companies making the vaccines as well, but these are the most popular, and these are the commoner ones that arrive in Nigeria.
Okay, so why are they administered different
The
different
idea,
times?
the idea of vaccinations, if we look at the national program or the expanded program on immunization, take for example a newborn who is born today will need several shots of a vaccine to develop substantial or adequate immunity to help him fight against the disease. So if a child is born today, they receive, for example, oral polio vaccine, OPV0, and then in 6 weeks' time they receive OPV1, in 10 weeks and in 14 weeks. Do you understand?
Yeah.
It's the same thing for COVID vaccine.
Okay.
When they get the first shot, when people get the first shot of this vaccine, it helps them to build an amount of immunity. Okay. The body responds to this initial exposure to the vaccine. However, that immunity occasionally short-lived. They will need a booster dose for them to be able to react and generate substantial or adequate immunity to help them fight against future infections.
Okay, so I was going to ask how these vaccines work. I don't know if you answered it partially.
No, not yet. I haven't spoken about that.
Okay.
Vaccines, essentially, the idea of vaccines is to introduce a foreign body which has the characteristics of a pathogen, a virus, a bacteria, fungi into the body. Now, generally, or in the past, vaccines were made by introducing the killed or a weakened form of the virus itself, yes, into the body. So, for example, polio vaccine has the killed type and the live type. However, this virus is in such a form that it cannot cause physical disease. It cannot cause disease to people who receive them, right? But it still maintains the properties of that virus such that it can elicit the same inflammatory or immune response that the actual living virus that can cause a disease would cause. Okay. So for the COVID vaccine, for example, it is not the virus itself. Many of these companies, in fact, I need to expand on this a little bit.
Okay.
COVID is an RNA virus. So RNA virus, okay. There's a DNA virus and there's an RNA virus. Yeah. Now, DNA viruses are double-stranded molecules. RNA viruses are single-stranded molecules. For RNA viruses, it is easier because you just create a molecule that, when it is inoculated into a person, it teaches the body's immune system or the body's cells to create a protein that is similar to the protein on this molecule or on the surface of the virus. The popular picture around that we see of the COVID virus is like a ball with spikes all around it. Yes. Now, when this molecule containing the vaccine is introduced or inoculated into any patient or people or in general, right? It teaches the body cells to produce molecules that are similar to those cells around. In doing that, the body's immune system recognizes these things as foreign and creates immunity against these foreign bodies. So when a patient now is infected with the actual virus, the body already has an immune system, a backup, a soldier force fighting, prepared to fight. I like to use this analogy a lot. Okay. When there is insurgents, the Nigerian army creates a group, Operation Python Dance, Operation Zumunda, or something like that, right, to fight against this particular group of people, right? So anytime they are trained specifically for this purpose, whenever there's an insurgence, they say, go to this part of the country, solve that problem. The immune system works exactly in the same way. Whenever the body is exposed to a new pathogen, a new virus or bacteria, they work exactly in the same fashion. The body makes a subset of immune cells, both either cellular immunity or humoral immunity now, to fight against this particular new virus or new pathogen that it has been exposed to. Okay. So essentially, this is how vaccines work.
Okay, so what's the possibility of somebody who is already vaccinated testing positive?
COVID is essentially still very new, and as of this moment, it is probably the most studied pathogen in the world. So every day there's going to be new information. To answer your question, yes, it is possible for someone who has been infected with COVID who has been vaccinated to be infected with COVID, unfortunately. However, the point of being vaccinated is that your body already generated immune system preparing for an infection. So if anyone who has received this vaccine does get infected, the infection is never, ever as serious as it will be if they were not vaccinated ab initio. To add to that, when people get infected generally, most young or immunocompetent people will be able to fight off this infection on their own without requiring treatment, severe or serious treatment. Multivitamins just optimize the immune system and they respond very well. However, it is important to take these vaccines because we do not live in isolation as young people. We have elderly ones, we have people who are immunocompromised, we have families, just general society where it's a mix of everything. So you're taking it to protect yourself primarily, but you're also taking it to protect the next person. You're also taking it to protect your colleague who is immunodeficient. You're also taking it to protect your elderly parent who is hypertensive, diabetic, or with advanced age and a reduced immunity.
Can they spread this virus? I mean, those who are vaccinated, who tested positive,
everybody who is infected can spread the virus. Typically, the virus has an incubation period of 2 to 14 days. And most people start to show symptoms from day 5. It is possible to start to infect people 2 days before people start to show symptoms. Yeah.
So what's the point of the vaccines if it's not a cure and it does not prevent the spread?
We have a lot of illnesses where we do not have cures for, but there's medical interventions to help people to cope and live with these things. High blood pressure does not have a cure, but people take medications for high blood pressure. Diabetes does not have an essential cure, but people take medications for diabetes. Essentially, these vaccines is to reduce the rate of infection, to help protect the elderly and the immunocompromised, and those people who cannot mount enough immune reaction or immune response, so to speak, to fight against this virus on their own. So yes, while there's no cure, the vaccine actually goes a long way in reducing the severity of the illness, especially for those people who are immunocompromised.
We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is Positive Impact. We're still on the topic COVID-19 with Dr. John Ida Michaels. Doctor, what are possible side effects of the COVID-19?
The side effects of the vaccines are similar to the side effects of the actual illness itself, because essentially is to the vaccines generate the same response that the actual infections generate. So one is suspected to come down occasionally with a fever, body pains, muscle pains, and weakness. Occasionally, a small percentage of people could report diarrhea, abdominal discomfort, headaches, fatigue, and basically symptoms similar to the vaccine. One important symptom that almost everyone reports is injection site pain. So that pain, the site of the injection remains sore for a few days. However, these symptoms are expected to go away after a few days. To add to that, because these vaccines occasionally elicit the same response, there's a small percentage of people who report blood clots, and that has been reported in the media, and especially in Europe and in America. Many people have had, let me not say many, a number of people have had those reports. However, it's a small percentage.
Okay, in layman terms, kindly explain what happens when you're exposed to the COVID-19 virus?
When someone is exposed to this virus, when a patient gets infected, there's an initial incubation period. Essentially, this is common for most viruses. They have an incubation period where they're able to infect the body cells and then elicit the form or take the form when the disease takes root and take form. That's the incubation period. And in this period, some people might start to show symptoms. The incubation period is about 2 to 14 days. However, most people begin to show symptoms closer to day 5. It is possible, like I mentioned before, to be infective, to start to infect people 2 days before one shows symptoms. When this infection takes root and symptoms starts to manifest, the body starts to respond. Now, the unfortunate part or the difficult part of how this disease happens is that it causes damages in several forms. One form is that the actual virus itself starts to cause damage to lung tissue. It has a predilection or a preference for lung tissue. The virus itself can cause direct damage to lung tissue. Also, there's what is called the cytokine storm, medical terminology for when the body is responding to the presence of a foreign body or an infection, one of the processes in inflammatory response. This cytokine storm is the way that the body responds to the infection. Now, this cytokine storm can be excessive. It's called a storm because it can be excessive. This excessive response of the body can subsequently also cause damage to lung tissue. So essentially that explains, in layman's terms, the disease process. It is way more complex than that, but that encapsulates it.
Okay, so is this what happens to the individual if not vaccinated prior or post
This is
the
what
exposure?
happens. This is what happens to both vaccinated and non-vaccinated people. However, in people who are vaccinated, the response is very targeted because they already have immune cells directed towards that virus. Okay. Yes.
Okay, so what is the health benefits taking the vaccines? What is the health benefit?
Essentially, the health benefits is basically reducing the chance of getting infection for most people, and then reducing the severity of the infection for people who eventually come down with the infection after taking the vaccines. Those are the two most important things.
Okay, so why can't children be vaccinated?
The reason why children cannot be vaccinated is because the virus is new and trials were not conducted in children. Okay. And before you issue or administer vaccines to anyone, you must have conducted trials in this demographic, particularly demographic. Another group of people who cannot be vaccinated yet are pregnant women. Okay. It is quite a substantial risk because you don't know what will happen if you give them this vaccine. Pregnancy comes with its issues. Childhood has, children are going through extensive developmental processes, and you don't know what will happen if you have not tested it in children. That's the only reason why.
Okay, so what are you going to say to someone out there who is scared of taking the vaccine?
I will say that the same way you're not scared of giving your child polio vaccine or BCG or hepatitis B, it's the same way everybody should be open to taking the COVID-19 vaccine. Essentially because before now, vaccines, one of the skepticisms is that vaccines, the trial period was short, it was 1 year and whatnot. However, the technology that we had available for making vaccines 10 years ago, which made the trial period to be that long, we've gone leaps and bounds, beyond that point. There's better technology in developing vaccines now, even though one of the things is that we don't know if people are going to come down with side effects 10 years down the line. It is very unlikely because this molecule that is contained in this vaccine is artificial. It was created and modified, to this particular form. So it is not expected that people get, severe complications or life-changing complications down the line. To address some of the other issues, many people are scared of blood clots and infertility. All of these are basically things that people spawn. But, in essence, nobody can really say they've died from the vaccine or you've not seen anybody who was amputated from the vaccine. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but the same way children have adverse effects following immunization is the same way it is possible for adults to have. However, this percentage is very, very much negligible. And people should go ahead I think that we just need to be a little bit more open-minded. And COVID-19 is a disease, a respiratory illness caused by SARS-CoV-2, which is an single-stranded RNA virus. Now, this virus belongs to a large family of viruses called the coronaviruses. Coronaviruses, and then it belongs to a subfamily called Autocoronavirinae, and the larger family is Coronaviridae virus. This virus, the SARS-CoV-2 virus, is known to cause respiratory illnesses in humans. The first time this virus was noticed to cause illnesses was in birds in 1920. And the first time it was seen to cause illnesses in humans was in about 1960. Speaking on the preventive measures for COVID-19, before this period or this far into the pandemic, the preventive measures were, the use of soap and hand washing for at least 20 to 30 seconds. People were also advised to stand social distancing, to stand at least 1.5 to 2 meters away from people when speaking. And one of the most important was the use of face mask, because as the virus is being spread through respiratory droplets when people speak and when people breathe or sneeze or cough, especially. Now, going further down into this period how far we've come into the pandemic, we realized that the vaccine is the ultimate prevention. The vaccine reduces the chance and the likelihood of getting infected, and then reduces the severity for if people get infected. So, however, people are still expected to wear face masks. Of course, it's still expected that you should wash your hands, because COVID-19 is not the only pathogen that is. SARS-CoV-2, the virus, is not the only pathogen that's out there. There's a lot of other things, and I think that this period has, made people to become a lot more health conscious, a lot more conscious towards personal hygiene, and it's a good thing overall. So I encourage people to, added to taking the vaccine, continue to use your face mask. For people who are not fully vaccinated, continue to practice hand washing and social distancing if you have not been vaccinated. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming, Doctor. We come to the end of the program.
Thank you.
And please do not forget to press the notification button so you get our videos when we upload, and kindly like and subscribe to our channel. If you have any comments, you can use our comment section. Thank you, goodbye, and God bless.